Hey friends, I'm Daniel Nesbitt, and in this episode we are going to take a look at a typeface, because why not? This is something that I had been meaning to do for a while, as quite a few of you have actually reached out to me, sent me emails, messages, what have you, talking about what you've learned from my videos. And so I thought just to encourage you along, if you have been kind of stuck or just want to see what other people are taking away from my videos, I thought this would be a fun way just to let everyone see kind of what else is out there and what other people are doing. So this typeface came to me via Antonio from Full Fox Studios, and his typeface is called Liberalism. And he reached out to me earlier this year talking about how he was making use of, I believe it was the sans serif episode series at the time, that it was able to help him kind of learn some things and get through this project. And so he sent me this. This is a proof that we'll be just taking a brief look through, but it's really fun just to see what he was able to take away and basically what he was able to create. So as he noted, it is a sans serif extended semi-grotesque typeface, and in this case he's got 5 different weights here, which is really cool. And this is one thing that I like with his type specimen, is right off the bat we get to see how many weights that he's got here. And then just included a few characters just kind of to show off what those look like. But jumping in, and one of the main reasons that I think having a proof is important is because it actually starts to show off how he intended to use this. So as you can see here, he's just got a really nice statement piece, Black Lives Matter, of course. And just something very simple, very strong, very striking, but it really shows off the typeface really well. Moving on to the next page here, he's got a thing here for multilingual, just showing off the diacritics of the typeface. Again, this really helps if you're doing any kind of proof or anything like that, because for designers, knowing what your font comes with, knowing what kind of different things that it has inside of it can be super helpful, especially if they don't speak English, as in this case here. Maybe they speak a different language that still relies on Latin characters, and knowing that they've got that language support there can be a really great selling point. Jumping into the next page, basically just A to Z. And again, this I think is absolutely great to have a page like this, just giving you an idea of what the entire alphabet looks like. It doesn't really work, for showing how it works in context, but that's what's great about what we'll get to in a moment, is that he's doing a little bit more of that. But in the meantime, just being able to kind of get a quick glance here at kind of the character and how everything looks. And honestly, I think it looks pretty well here. We'll get back into maybe a little bit more of some things that I noticed if he's up for a critique in a moment, but I guess at the very least we've got kind of an idea of how things look here. And then we just get on into some use cases, and this is where I really think this type specimen shines. He's going through a lot here, and a lot of this you can tell right away. It seems to be working with geometric shapes. It's working with short bursts of copy. One thing that I noticed here is there is a lot of all cap stuff. There's screens like this one here where it's really kind of neat that it shows off the type metrics, going off the X height, the ascender height, the cap height, and then the descender height. As a type nerd, I kind of enjoy something like that. And then on this next page here, I think the next couple pages, it does get into a little bit of short bursts of copy, which again, it does a wonderful job kind of showing you how far you can really push this typeface. When I was looking through this, it's obviously not something that you'd really use to, for example, write a book with, but it potentially could work for short bursts of copy as he's showing here. The next couple of pages here, we've got some layouts, perhaps like a magazine or something like that, and it seems to stand up pretty well. This page I kind of enjoyed because while there wasn't an actual outline typeface, it really is kind of neat just to see this interaction between what could be an outline typeface and the solid filled in letter forms as well. And I actually like the contrast in this one. And I think if it's something, I don't know that he's got, planned for the future, but it could make for a fun alternate on this one, I think. It's kind of interesting. You don't see very many outline fonts anymore, or at least I don't. But I think they have their use, and they do look fun and can really provide some nice contrast like this. Then we're getting into some posters here, again with the short bursts of copy. The one thing that I was going to stop on this slide and really point out is how much I love those ampersands. And yes, I know it's cliche, every designer loves ampersands, but really what I wanted to say about this one was how much I actually enjoyed these specific ampersands because they just look so unique. Just getting that, this little arc or this curve in, to me, I just love that. It looks so cool, just the way it just kind of loops around. Yeah, how can you not enjoy that? And then moving on here, again, got my ampersand and whatnot, which I like. It's just kind of fun just to see how some of these interact with each other. One thing that I did like, and I actually, this is something that I probably need to do a better job myself of including in my typefaces, but particularly if you're looking at a font that is going to be used for a display or a larger font size, such a great idea to include arrows in, because quite often if you're using a typeface for large display, you might be using it for wayfinding, and you always need arrows for wayfinding. And it's so much more fun when you have a set of arrows that actually work with the typeface. It's just one of those little details that I think adds up nicely. We're just kind of going into a few more options here as well. I do like that there is some spots here that are set aside for numerals, particularly in the case of using them with the time or dates here. And again, it does a nice job to show you how this works. And there's some really unique and innovative, I think, kind of shapes going on here that I'd like to see. A little bit of math as well. And it's kind of cool with the math too, because we've got some of the I think Greek letters or things of that nature in there. Again, just showing you that it's really well thought out, that they weren't just thinking of one language when this was designed. And then here we've got a preview of all the diacritics. Again, like I said at the beginning, very helpful. You really get an idea very quickly of what kind of language support this has, and it looks pretty well in depth on the language support. Get some more dates there. I kind of like that calendar layout too. And again, as I'm going through these, one of the other things that really helps as you're selling a typeface is you almost want to make this a little bit inspirational for whoever might run across this and use this. Because as much as it is about selling the typeface, it's also kind of inspiring people. So as they're going through these slides, you might be getting them to think, does this relate to a project that they're working on or that they could be working on? Sometimes that can be a really great selling point. So honestly, overall, well done. I'm not sure if this is exactly Antonio's first typeface or if it's one of his first typefaces, but if he's kind of still in that beginner phase, even if he's not, I think it's really well done, and really well thought out as well. I like having the weights there. I like having that he's got some really good proofs here, and it really seems like the letters relate to each other fairly well, which I think is amazing. But a couple things that I think are worth pointing out is I'm just going to zoom in on this 9 here real quick, because this is something that actually kind of tripped me up a little bit when I started. But if you're going to do a monoline typeface like this, there's a couple things that you have to kind of keep in mind, especially if it's going to start getting used in lower point sizes. Number one, you can kind of tell it's there, but just making sure that you have a good connection kind of here so that there's not like a big dark space here that feels like it's absorbing a lot of ink or anything like that. And sometimes you really have to embellish this to get that to look good. And you might have seen this in things like my sans serif series, where the curves would really taper in as they were going into a stem like this. The other thing that I was curious about as well, and you can kind of see down on things like the G here, but this 9 feels very angular at the bottom. And I'm kind of wondering if something were to be a little more, I don't know, curved in nature, where it's not so like angled like that. I kind of wonder if something like that might not look a little bit smoother. Or even just, matching the 3 a little bit. I think you could really get some good consistency there. Because the other thing that I'm looking at as we zoom in here is you've got kind of a similar ending here for the 5, the 3, and the 9. It seems like the 9 and the 5 are loosely the same, but you can kind of see in the 5 it's got more of that curve like I was looking for. I'm kind of wondering how that would work if you were able to push that across all 3 of those shapes where it's similar like that. And I would imagine the 6 is probably going to have the same thing as well. But it's that little consistency thing that I think could really make a difference here. There was one other as well. Let's see if we can go back here, because I think it was kind of a similar thing as well. Yeah, in the Alpine here. So one thing to keep in mind is that these strokes going up and down here, I'll change my color a little bit so maybe it's easier to see, but these should be the same width as this. And if that's not the case, that's fine. It could be a reverse contrast. But what I noticed here was that this weight here feels a lot thinner than this weight here. And you kind of have to think about it as a curve going this way. And I just wonder if it wouldn't help to kind of bring this up a little bit. Maybe it kind of curves around more like this. I guess my thing here is going to auto correct my curve a little bit, but I think you kind of get what I mean, is just thinning that up here, maybe even kind of making that a little bit smoother, similar to like the P here as well. And then again, if this is going to be a display face, just tapering something like that and just a little bit more might make a pretty good difference there. But overall, I think that's looking good. And then another trick too, while you're kind of getting that curve, even with the L2, that might be able to curve down a little bit more. So it's not so rounded like this. And it's just one of those things where you kind of have to go with your eye a little bit as far as what looks right. But it's those little details that I think generally add up. The other thing that I was looking at too is width, and character width is a very finicky subject. But one thing that I was looking at on this one was the F and the T kind of felt a little bit narrow to me. And the reason that I'm pointing that out is because you have another character like the R here that does take a wider form. You can kind of disregard things like the I, the J, the L, because those will just naturally be thinner forms. There's nothing much you can do about that. But with the F and the T, you have that opportunity with the crossbar and with the hooks on them to make them a little bit wider. And I really wonder how that would look if they were made into something a little bit wider. It doesn't necessarily technically need to be the same width as the N or something like that, but it could be worth exploring just to see how those might look a little bit wider and if that fits in a little bit more with the rest of the characters here. And beyond that, I mean, overall, it's pretty good. I think the tough part, especially when you're designing a sans serif, is there's not really a whole lot of places to hide. And I think I've said this in the sans serif series, and it's something that I always think of anytime that I'm designing a sans serif font, is they often can be a lot trickier than they first look. But that said, it's a really solid piece. So Antonio, I'm sure you're watching, but you should definitely be very proud of what you've done here. I think honestly, you did an excellent job, and it's really kind of cool. I really enjoyed seeing the different use cases and things of that nature, and yeah, it's I think a really solid face. So what I'm going to do is flip very quickly to the last page here as I kind of speed through the slides. So I just want to give Antonio a little bit of a shout out here. He does have this available on his studio website at fullfox.it, and I will have a link in the description if you want to go check this around, maybe play around with it a little bit yourself. But I want to say thank you so much for putting your work out there. It was definitely a pleasure to see you progress with your typeface, because I know we sent a few emails back and forth, and just being able to kind of see this go from a little bit of a start. I think I probably maybe caught you midway through the process to the ending. I think you've created a beautiful font. And if you're watching this and you're not Antonio, I really encourage you to go and check it out. So that said, if anyone else has a typeface that they have been working on, maybe it's in progress, or maybe it is getting a little bit closer to done, like Antonio did, by all means, feel free to send me an email. My email is d@nis.bet. I'm always excited to see what people are taking away from my channel here as far as what they're learning and maybe what they're working on. And yeah, if people are enjoying this, I'm always happy to do more type critiques as time allows. So hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you had some fun, whether you were Antonio or not. Maybe you learned a few things from this. And if you have, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you've got any input, if you've got any thoughts, or even just want to say, hey, great job, make sure to find the comment section below this video. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.